Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Hope you're all having a good day. It is one of the very few. Oh, wow, it's sunny now, actually. Okay, I was just telling Dylan Cooley here that it was cloudy, but now it's a little bit sunny. So back to normal Rio de Janeiro days. But anyway, so yes, we have Cooley Nurk here, and she is an executive coach, helping really new leaders. So this could be somebody that, who's in a new leadership position or somebody who's maybe trying to get to the next level of leadership. And, I'm really excited to have her on because we've been connected for a while, and she writes really great content. She's like really good at being personable in her stories and, kind of sharing her journey. And I think, Cooley, I think you really have that kind of natural, kind of like a natural storytelling ability that most people don't have. A lot of people, when they write, they write very kind of robotically or just add the value stuff. But what I really like about your stuff is you're a very natural writer and sharer and storyteller. So from the marketing perspective, there's that. And so yeah. I mean, how the heck are
Thank
you?
you.
How's everything going? Yeah.
Thank you. It's good. It's good to know that you like my posts, actually. I tried to tell a story and I tried to make it more personable, or I tried to share what what I live everyday life, and I share about what my children land on my plate, or what my clients land on my plate, or me as an expat, what are my challenges and things like that. I tried to kind of weave them into my coaching um, knowledge, or something, or coaching education.
Yeah, hey, that's really interesting link that I didn't, think of, that you are, you're also an expat in another country,
Mm,
from Estonia, and moved to
mhm.
Scotland, and you've been there for like 20 years or something, yeah?
Yeah, 20 years, yes.
Yeah. So for you guys watching who might not know, I've been living in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil for a couple of years. I'm from the US, and it really is a different experience being in another place with another language and different culture. It's like,
Hmm.
you know, and my mother was from Rio and came to the US, and she still has her Brazilian accent, and I don't know if she acts differently. I don't know. She's been my mom my whole life, so I'm not quite sure there. But well, so what a great relation too between being a new leader, being a leader in a company. How does that fit into your coaching? How do those kind of ideas, this kind of newness, this responsibility, how does that fit into your
Mm.
philosophy and maybe how you help new leaders?
I think the new leaders kind of gravitated towards me. Actually, it kind of happened in my coaching. I became an executive coach, but who gravitated towards me through LinkedIn and other means was always kind of leaders who had just made it to a team leadership position. And then I saw, okay, that may be my niche, because these are the people that naturally like my energy or like my posts or learn something from me. Uh, but obviously, I've had a lot of this experience of starting from scratch. That if you become a new leader, that first of all, of course, you know your profession, you know your area of expertise, that you have been doing something. But then you get this new leadership position, and then you feel, I know nothing.
Mm.
It's what most new leaders feel suddenly. And they think they are alone with this. And I promise you, it's everybody. It's always everybody. About 3 months into the job, they lose their confidence, imposter syndrome kicks in, they feel they are alone, they are afraid of asking help, they are afraid of acknowledging that it's much, much harder than they ever imagined.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, that's I'm going to keep relating this to, what I know coming into Brazil and leadership. It's like,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's very, there's so many layers to being in a new leadership position, in a new
Mm.
environment. Like, you know, because so, I've been working with executive coaches and their marketing for almost
Hmm.
exclusively for a couple years now. So I know a lot about the
Hmm.
problems, that they been facing. One of the biggest things that I hear is, especially with new leaders, it's like, so this happens a lot in the tech industry, where someone will be say a developer, and they're really in the trenches, and they're working, hands on with everything, and they do their job, and they do it really well, and they know all the ins and outs. And then they get maybe selected, or they rise to a leadership position. And then all of a sudden it's a whole new set of skills that they need to learn, because it's not just getting stuff done anymore. Now it's about, how do you encourage and inspire a team to come together and to communicate and to get things done, having compassion and empathy for others. How do you pitch yourself, pitch ideas to executives in the company, and all of those things. And I know that a lot of new leaders, they end up like, putting out fires all day, because they want to do everything. So instead of knowing how to delegate, they're just like doing stuff all the time, or instead of communicating effectively, they just put all the workload on themselves and do everything themselves. So,
yeah, that is what I've also noticed, that they, especially if they come from the same team they start to lead, they suddenly don't know how to delegate. And they think they need to be involved in every single project. And that's one of the first things I say. Every project or every question that lands on your plate, you need to say, am I leading, or am I actually executing this project? Like, you have to make it very clear that you have to have time now to manage people, to manage team projects, to manage the dramas between the members of the team. And it always happens. Everybody's human. And also that I think people who have grown out of the same team often come with a even more complex set of problems. It's because the team members might not necessarily kind of value them as a team leader, that they really, really have to prove that they have that side of them inside them, that the leadership skills. And particularly tech people, I've worked with a few tech people. And as you know, if you're a developer, you're not often a people person. I'm sorry, that's just, they are introverted. They are detail people. But suddenly you need to have more kind of strategic outlook to things. And you suddenly start understanding why your previous boss was, saying things they were saying, and why they had the meetings they needed to hold. And tech people generally hate meetings, or developers, as much as I know them, and I know quite a few. So it's really, like you said, it's a different skill set completely. And you may need to be using that new skill set a lot more than your old skill set.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of these new first-time leaders they don't know what they signed up for. No. Sure. Like, so I'll say a couple things about this. Like, first thing on the, again, on the being in Brazil side, and a new thing, when I first, wow, it's crazy the kind of parallels that these two things have. So like, on one, when I first moved into Brazil and to Rio, I am Brazilian too. Like, not only, I have nationality here, and I can vote, and I have family here. So I have this strong identity of, yes, I'm American, but I'm Brazilian. And when I first moved here, I really wanted to be Brazilian. I wanted to act like everybody else, and I wanted to talk like everybody else, and I wanted to walk and to move. And I was hoping and wishing that I could blend in, and I could, just be another Brazilian. And I realized, one, that I can't do that. But more importantly, I realized that I didn't need to do that. Like, being in this new place, I really learned to accept more of my identity, of like who I am, and that I have both of these things, and I have my own style, and that people love my style, and they love the way that I am, and that I am American, and that I speak English, and I can help them with that, and that I look different. Like, I've never really had anything negative happen to me about it, except, people maybe trying to take more advantage of me, and things like the natural things like that. But it was a very interesting thing, and I'm sure that must happen for new leaders too. So I kind of wanted to, to ask you, how do you help these people who are in this new position like what's kind of maybe the first thing you work on, or how do you help them own that identity? Because it's a
Mhm.
very difficult thing. Like how do you navigate that?
That's what I call this kind of self-centered leadership, that people come back to themselves, like exactly what you said. You kind of lose yourself a little bit, don't you? You want to ad- kind of adopt the new identity and the new nationality and the new country and the new people culture. And then you suddenly feel that I don't recognize myself, or you kind of lost your foundation at the same time, trying to please everybody, or going with the newness. And when once that newness wears off a little bit, that's when people find themselves in trouble. So I try to always help them get back to that center, that who am I? What are my core values? What do I actually believe about being a leader? What do I actually want to, kind of what energy I want to emit? What the team atmosphere should be like under my leadership. Do I want to offer them safety to talk, and or do I want to be more who tells people what to do? Like they have to find their own style, but they completely lose themselves first 6 months, I would say. How long it took you, for example, to feel suddenly that, okay, I've lost myself. I need to come back to who I am and be proud of who I am. That double heritage and everything. Do you remember?
Hmm. Um, yeah, I think, I don't think there wasn't a point exactly, but I think maybe after 6 months or so, I really just kind of started to accept that I wanted to, yeah, to be more of me. Um, and what's really helped is learning the language. As I've become better and
Mm.
better at Portuguese, I've less and less felt like an outsider. And I've less and less felt like I don't belong, or like I don't understand, or like I can't operate in the world, because when you don't know the language, it's difficult to do anything. It's difficult to order something.
Mm-hmm.
I can't make a doctor appointment for myself, because maybe even if I could, it's very anxiety ridden. It's like, oh, I have to talk to someone, and talking to Brazilians when you're like making appointments isn't like talking to Americans, at least I don't think. Mostly like Brazilians are a lot more like a little bit more difficult to like get things done with when it comes to like,
Mm-hmm.
ordering or making appointments. So it was just this whole but as I've learned the language, and it's like it kind of shaped the way I act too, and I've just become more confident like that hey, I can own my Americanness, and I can own how I've always been, because I can communicate myself. But when I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
communicate, I was just, I'm just another gringo, just another tourist who doesn't know
Mm-hmm.
anything, who has no way to
Mm-hmm.
prove that he knows anything, no way
Mm-hmm.
to, I can't speak any slang, I can't order stuff, I'm relying on my cousins to speak for me. So learning the language is really something you got to do if you want to be effective in the world. Like how
Mm-hmm.
powerful is that? And I can imagine as
Mm-hmm.
as a leader, there's a language to leadership. So
Mm-hmm.
do you have like maybe an example of someone you worked with who was doing that? Like what are some of the things that you had them do, or that you helped them through to learn this?
What I have found with new leaders, and you mentioned another point that I need to bring out, but in a minute, is that what they find difficult is that the top management expects something from them, because new leadership usually means you're middle management, right? You're not the top yet. And they have people demanding something of them from their team, from under them, and from top. So they are this kind of, they can't find the balance, or that's why they lose themselves so much. Like they don't know how to speak both languages, and both languages may be new to them in that sense. Like they need to translate what their team is saying to the management so that the management understands, and vice versa. They need to translate the company vision and company annual goals to their team goals. And that can be really, really hard to begin with if you've never had to do this before. But what you also mentioned is that you had help. You had your cousins help you. But I find that new leaders mostly have that kind of a little bit of shame about asking help either within the company or seeking out help from outside, or to have either somebody mentoring them or have a same, like a peer outside the company who is in the same position that they could share their experience. And or somebody who has maybe just done it before, like a year ago or 2 years ago, the same kind of thing, and said, I know this is what you need to do, or this is how I solved this. I find that they leave themselves they isolate themselves too much out of fear of exposing themselves, that I didn't know, or I don't know how to be a leader, that I so wanted. I proved myself at an interview, or however they got the position. And now I need to prove myself to them. And they isolate themselves as a result. And you know yourself, you asked help, you asked your cousins, and you had kind of a little bit of a group around you who could help you out when you need it. And that's what new leaders also need, I feel. And they should not have they should have courage to ask help directly, whoever they trust, from whoever they trust.
Yeah, yeah, it's such a difficult thing. Like I can't imagine the number of leaders who have failed because they haven't had help. And it's just like, just because you're a leader doesn't mean at all that you need to have everything figured out, that you should have everything figured out. Like it's an ongoing process. And even the best leaders in the world, like I always think of this example of Andrew Carnegie, that famous steel guy in the 1800s. There's always this famous thing I heard, that he never thought of himself as like the smartest, most capable guy, but he hired all of the people that were the best at what they did. And he was the best at facilitating, the best at asking the questions and getting the people who are doing what they do best, inspiring and encouraging them to do what they do best. And that must be, how he found out that was his superpower, and he had the self-awareness to know that what he was best at is the core principle of like being a leader, which, yeah, it's not necessarily like in our prehistoric caveman days, where the leader is the person who's just the man that can hunt the best and is the strongest and who can like kill everybody. It's like, now that we have society and we have culture, the best leaders are the ones that can connect all of the minds, who can share ideas that can be adopted by the most people, and that people can give other people self-belief, so that people are encouraged themselves to do great things. Like those are the ones that we look to. And if you don't have that skill, like there's so many leaders that get promoted because they're the best at what they do. They're the best developer. They're the best salesperson, but it doesn't mean they're the best leader. So how do we get them? How do we get these leaders more help? I mean, I guess that's what you're doing as an executive coach, but how do we get more people help? Is it creating a culture? Is it creating a leadership culture? Is it creating leadership development programs? People should just hire more executive coaches. I don't know.
Well, that would be good. And I did, like you've seen maybe from my profile, I've just created a group for new leaders to learn together, to share their experience. And I find that in a group, the energy is different, and they see that, the others have the same problems, or they've just solved their problem and they can now tell me, and I can maybe try something similar, not exactly the same. But what I wanted to mention, what you just said, was that creating the culture of this kind of coaching culture, or coaching style leadership culture, lifting people up and asking their questions so that they can find their own solutions, may suit. And I've had a couple of new leaders who are want to develop that kind of style in them, but it doesn't suit their team. They need to adapt their leadership style to suit the team, because if the team is, let's say, the developers, developers are very detail orientated. They don't want too much communication. They want very little. They want independence. They don't want coaching style leadership. They need to know what they need to do. And if they have a problem, they come and ask you. They don't want you to interfere too much into their doings and things like that. So you need to kind of start reading people and reading the room a little bit better. And for that, you need to engage your intuition and kind of, really, really trust your senses, not the leadership books or not what anybody tells you. That trust your, how we pick up all the vibes with other senses that are not necessarily conscious. It's that 90% of information of what comes like subconsciously or reading the sensing or reading the body language and things like that. And I think leaders, first thing is to start listening what they hear, like with intention, listening with intention, but also then trust that, okay, they say one thing, but I feel the other. I feel they are hiding something, and then bring that into daylight and say it out loud. And that takes courage to trust yourself and to say it out loud. But I hear what you're saying, but I have a feeling that you mean something else.
Yeah, that's a very good point, that not only do you have to connect to yourself as a leader, but you have to pick up on others. Like, you really have to have this consciousness of listening. It's listening. But yeah, for me, because I have a feeling that we're very similar in this way, that we're very intuitive and we can like read people and adjust our personalities based on who we're talking to, and be able to, like, I'm the kind of person I can get along with anybody. I mean, it's not, and that doesn't mean that I want to. If somebody's an asshole, then screw them. I don't want to talk to them. But I could get along with people. I can like tell them that they want to hear or have the right kind of energy. And and I'm really grateful for things like the DISC assessment and Strengths Finder and all of those things too. I think they're really useful tools, but I also look at them and I can't imagine like really studying that and then thinking, okay, this person they're like an S type, so that means that I need to give them this, and this, and behave this way towards them. Like, to me, that's just so much work, and I don't think I need that. But then there's also probably people that are more tech-minded and they need to know that information. Like, the only way maybe they can feel comfortable is if they're like, okay, I'm going to analyze the room. This person's a D, so I'm really going to give them this. So like I have some clients that are tech-minded and they want me to tell them how to do everything. And I'm like, I can't tell you that when you do this should happen. And this, like, and when you do this should happen. It's like, come on, just use your intuition here. Like, just like get out of the box and just do it. But but that doesn't work. Like, so it's tough. It's frustrating.
And they don't do it. If you tell them get out of the box and do it, there are people who do not do it. No matter how supportive you are, they cannot think for themselves for whatever reason. They are I don't know why, but I always think that those tests, the DISC and Strength Finder, what you mentioned, they are like a snapshot. They're not who the person is every day, or they are maybe right now like this, but in 6 months' time, they are already somebody else. We all change depending on what's happening in our lives. But to know that somebody is like the S type or D type or whatever, it's more to give you an idea of the communication style you need to use with them, rather than how much detail you need to give them. It's how much warning I need to give them if a change is coming. And if you don't know their like strengths and DISC results or something like that, you need to ask very specific questions to find out, okay, this person maybe needs 2 weeks advance notice if I'm going to change something, because otherwise they start panicking and creating chaos in my team. So So you need to kind of know the personalities in your team. You can't just avoid it and hope that if with my warm and kind and generous and coaching leadership style that it suits everybody and they come along with me and work with me. They don't. And there is sometimes people who are very have very little self-awareness in your team, and they blame everybody else. And then you have to learn to deal with that person and get that person on your side as well. And as a new leader, when you have given your all, you think day and night about your new job, and you give all the hours, and you kind of give the first few months. And if you can't still get the people on your side, you burn out. And that's what happens, unfortunately, to a lot of new leaders.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, what happens when people work with you? Like, so we're talking about leaders that need help, that if they had somebody that could obviously help them and help really the world, like really that's why I am so focused on leadership and working with executive coaches, because I feel that, there are these leaders of these organizations that have hundreds, thousands and thousands of people that they're responsible for and giving livelihoods to and being role models for. And there's all these companies and people that are entrepreneurs. Like, if we can create better leadership, better people, more empathetic, can communicate better, can lead teams better, then, the whole world will be a better place. So, so when you work with, leaders, they struggling with some of these things, like, why do it? What's the benefit? Is that they're going to be able to, connect with their people faster, or they're going to be able to get to the next, level easier, or what's kind of
I think my main aim is to give them a lot more self-awareness and kind of tools for having growth for the rest of their life. And that if they have the tools after working with me that they can use whenever, that gives them the confidence that I can tackle anything. And I'm hoping that I send my people away after working with me with that I know what to do. I know how to question my own thinking. So I work a lot with their own thinking, like their own thought patterns. And I teach them how to catch their own thought patterns and say, okay, that's a thought pattern that I usually have. In this situation, something triggers it. Okay, I'm in my victim mindset, or I'm hyperachiever, meaning that I never celebrate any wins, and I never kind of acknowledge my own achievements at all. I just move on. And that kind of creates the burnout pattern in people. But there is a lot of these kind of thought patterns that we have. Being very judgmental, being restless, meaning that I always think that somewhere else is better. That's a restless thought pattern, FOMO. And once they start working with me, they tell me a story again, what happened at work, I had this situation, and before I can ask, okay, what's your thought pattern? Of course, I'm here now, and then it kind of solves itself. And they start catching themselves, which means that they don't go into this rabbit hole of a thought pattern immediately, but they have a choice. I can go down that way, or I can do something else.
Gotcha.
And it takes a couple of months to start catching yourself, but they usually do. And I think that you can't take that away anymore, that skill. That's for life.
Yeah, well, it takes, a couple months rather than a couple years, because I think what it sounds like what you're doing is really helping people to really progress in their life, happiness, and career at a way faster and even compounding rate. Because I think naturally we come to that, I've been thinking this way for a long time. I don't want to think this way anymore, so I'm going to change. But for most people, that takes a long time. For like some of the big decisions, it can take, years and years. And that's what holds people back from, getting out of their bad relationship, or having the courage to step into leadership, or like whatever that is. But it sounds like you're teaching people how to think, and how to catch, how to be self-aware and realize that they're in a negative thought pattern. And once you're aware of it, then you can stop it. But the trick that most people don't know is the awareness that their thoughts are not their own, that they can choose their thinking, and they can catch the negative ones, and they can transform to positive. And then you can start doing things faster and faster and faster. So yeah, sounds like save people a lot of time and misery, and being able to
you put it very nicely. That's what you do. You get the correct message.
Exactly. Yes. All right. Well, this has been a really good convo. I think that's a good place for us to maybe wrap it up here for today. I think we should definitely talk more, on another day. What a fun parallel that was. I'd love to hear more. I want to hear more about your story. You coming into Scotland, and what that experience has been like. So let's chat again. Let's do, have another live sometime.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I guess, any last thoughts you wanted to get out, or all good?
All good. I just want to encourage all leaders that you all need a sparring partner.
It's a good way to put
somebody
it.
Who, to listen to your thoughts. And usually if somebody already listened to you, you listen to yourself, and then you catch yourself. You don't always need the other person to say much.
Totally.
But it's good to have that person.
Yeah, it happened to me yesterday. I was talking to my mentor / business partner, Dave, and it's like a lot of times when I ask him to do a session for us to talk, I kind of just start talking about stuff, and I'm just talking it out, and he'll even be there listening, or he'll look at his phone sometimes, or do other work or whatever. But because he knows, and that I know, that sometimes I just need to talk things out, and then and then we get to a place, and then he'll ask me the right question. He'll ask, okay, well, this, how about this and this, and it's okay, let's go on that, let's create from there. And so so important to have someone. And it's again, there must be so many leaders that don't have that support, or don't ask for it, and that's it. We need it. We all need a sparring partner. I've never heard of anybody that's ever been successful that didn't have help, that didn't have some kind of mentor, that didn't have someone that pulled them up, taught them what they knew. And this is a big thing. This is a huge thing. So thank you for doing what you're doing, Cooley.
Thank you. And thank you for doing what you are doing.
Yes, very much. Very welcome. Okay, so until next time, all y'all out there on LinkedIn and the internet, see you soon.